The New Brunswick Liberals have won a majority government 6 years after losing to the provincial Progressive Conservatives. Led by Premier-designate Susan Holt, the Liberals came away with 31 of the province's 49 seats. Outgoing Premier Blaine Higgs lost his seat and his party held just 15 ridings. Susan Holt is New Brunswick's incoming Premier. Hi, Premier-designate. Welcome to our show. It's such a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for making the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, Vassy.
And first of all, of course, congratulations on your win and also the first win for a female premier in the province's history. I feel like people of all political backgrounds can get behind that one. I wanted to start off, Premier-designate, and ask you about a sentiment that's been expressed to me frequently today by Liberals here in Ottawa. They're breathing a big sigh of relief at your win, claiming to me that it means the Liberal brand, in essence, has more life to live. Do you think that's a fair interpretation?
I think that can be fair. We certainly did a lot of work on the ground with an amazing team of candidates that presented themselves authentically as the people who wanted to serve and earn the trust of their neighbors. And we had a slate of candidates that were from a lot of different political backgrounds. You know, former Green candidates, former Conservative cabinet ministers, former NDP. So we really brought together quite a rainbow group of folks to bring the change that New Brunswickers are asking for.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that factored heavily into the message you conveyed to New Brunswickers, at least as I perceived it from the outside. You put some effort into distancing yourself from the Prime Minister himself, saying during the campaign that you'd never met him. Your platform only used the word Liberal once. Your name, Holt, appeared 30 times, conversely, and the Liberal logos were replaced with Team Holt logos. Why did you feel the need to do that?
Well, there's a lot of confusion, and rightfully so. This is called Liberal, that's called Liberal. What's the difference? Federal, provincial, folks are pretty busy and don't have time to sort it all out. So we wanted to make it clear that this was about this team of New Brunswickers that we'd brought together. So that's why we focused on me as a new leader that was fairly unknown. We wanted to make sure that there was that name recognition and that knowledge. Excuse me, been doing a lot of interviews today.
No problem, take your time. I won't fill the air. I put words in your mouth in the meantime.
Excuse me.
Take your time, no problem.
We're good.
You're good? Okay, I'll just quickly follow up then and ask, and I certainly do understand the part of what you said about putting forward your own, your own identity. I guess my question is more why you felt the need to do so, and if, to be blunt, you felt the federal Liberal brand, was a drag on yours.
Oh, we certainly saw significant degrees of unpopularity of the federal brand. And so we saw that in a number of ridings in a number of places where there was negativity expressed towards the federal brand. And so we wanted to clarify and really focus on our team of people.
And was it by design that the Prime Minister, for example, that you didn't meet with him, that he wasn't there campaigning with you?
It just didn't happen. I guess it was never considered. We were focused on New Brunswickers and our candidates. There wasn't a conversation or an offer, I suppose. So it just, we wanted to focus on our candidates and our ridings, and we didn't want outside factors, right? This was about a team of New Brunswickers who want to look after New Brunswickers' interests and not those of outside our borders.
So speaking of that and the relationship you will pursue on a host of pretty significant issues with the federal government, I wanted to start off on the issue of climate change and in particular the consumer portion of the carbon tax, because you have voiced your opposition to it. In your platform, however, you didn't detail the plan that you'd pursue to present to the feds to replace it. Why are those details absent, and what will they be?
Well, we need to put in place a plan that's going to work for New Brunswickers, that's still going to reduce emissions, that's going to tackle emissions with the biggest emitters. But we need to do that with all of the right information and expertise that is not generally available to a party of volunteers in a period leading up to a writ. So we want to get it right. We want to understand the original rejection of the previous plan that New Brunswick put in place, the acceptance of the plans of other provinces, so that we can get something that really reflects the unique nature of New Brunswick and the way that our population is spread out all over our gorgeous province. And the reality is that options aren't there for New Brunswickers to take a bike to work, or to hop on public transit. Even access to electric vehicles and non-emitting sources is not great out here. And so we need to make sure we have incentives in place to change behavior. And then we need to make sure we're tackling emissions where they're coming from with the biggest emitters. that's the plan we're going to put in place and take to Ottawa, and work closely with our counterparts there to make sure that New Brunswick's unique needs are recognized.
If I could respectfully, Premier-designate, challenge you on that, though, in the absence of information around the last time a sort of made in New Brunswick plan was rejected, it was pretty clear on that basis why it was rejected. You responded to questions during the campaign by saying, if I'm, again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not Brian Gallant, my plan won't be Brian Gallant's, but you aren't saying what your plan will be. I'm still unclear as to why you can't provide some of those details, particularly when you made your opposition to the carbon tax so clear during the campaign.
Well, the original plan that the previous Liberal government put forward did get rejected, but then it was essentially put forward by Mr. Higgs and got accepted. And so it wasn't clear to us why and what had shifted from the rejection to the acceptance.
That's on the industrial side, though, right? Not the consumer side.
I think it was the whole plan that was put together from New Brunswick that hadn't seen very much change between the change in government, and it just seemed like time had passed and some flexibility was introduced. And so we're interested to see where that flexibility is today. And we need to get the details of our own plan locked down, and we need to do that with the right data and good information, because we can't build a plan with information that we don't have and know that it's going to be accepted by the feds. I've got to get access to the information that exists within government to make sure we can finalize the details of a made in New Brunswick plan that puts the burden on industrial emissions in order to take to the federal government and start a conversation about what's going to work here in New Brunswick.
And that's a fair point, I think, about having the most information possible. I would just say that obviously the consumer portion of the carbon tax plan then Premier Higgs put forward was rejected because the carbon tax is imposed on your province. The question I think New Brunswickers have is whether or not your plan that you put forward will be something that the federal government can accept, and then that backstop will be removed, because the feds have been pretty clear. Without a price on carbon, it's a no.
And actually, the plan that Mr. Higgs put forward got accepted, and then it was Mr. Higgs who later decided that, I think a year or two later, he was going to remove it and go with the federal backstop. So it was Mr. Higgs that chose the federal plan that we have in place right now, after letting the plan that he put forward sit in the market for about a year. So there's lots to understand there, but what happened behind the scenes in terms of choosing one plan, getting it accepted, switching to another. So we look forward to getting the real information that can help us put the best plan in place to recognize the unique nature of New Brunswick and how New Brunswickers have what opportunities they have to reduce their own emissions and change their own behaviors, and how we can actively contribute to climate change, to reducing climate change.
And so if I could ask you bluntly then, on principle, not the details, but on principle, will the plan you attempt to present to the feds include a consumer carbon tax, or is that something that you are not going to move forward on at all?
That's not something that we're looking to move forward on right now. We've seen the impact on New Brunswickers. We think there's other options out there that other provinces have proven that they've had some success with. So we're looking to put the plan and the efforts where the emissions are and where the maximum benefit is.
And so do you expect that the feds will approve? Have they given you any indication beyond the past stuff you're referencing? More recently, I've put your criticism and other Liberal criticisms to Stephen Guilbeault, the Minister of Environment, who's offhand said they're caving to pressure, basically, public pressure on the carbon tax, in that if there isn't a carbon tax, that plans don't get approved. Like, is there any, have you received any signals or signs that, putting the burden on industry versus consumers is something the feds would ever accept?
Well, I just got elected last night, so it's not a conversation that we started yet. It's certainly on the list to have the conversation to figure out what can we do that recognizes, and look, the federal government has already recognized the unique nature of New Brunswick and Atlantic Canada with some of the adjustments and the points of flexibility that they've made to the plan. So we just want to make sure that the reality of this province, that is vastly rural with small urban centers all over the place, but without a developed transportation network and without the opportunity for active transportation, or even the opportunity to purchase or access non-emitting vehicles and transportation, we want to make sure there's a plan in place that understands the reality of New Brunswick.
And just very quickly, in your platform, you did have some specific timelines when it came to the issues around healthcare that you're addressing. How soon do you anticipate you'll be able to present a plan to address the climate change emergency to the federal government?
Oh, that's a good question. We're going to be digging in with the civil service. Well, as of today, we've started meetings to get at that information that we need to fill the holes in what we're planning to do. So I expect that through November and December and into January, we'll be able to put that together so that as we come into the spring, we'll have something to present, ideally before April 1st.
Okay, I'll leave it on that note. Premier-designate, congratulations once again, and thank you for making time for us. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure, Vassy. Thank you.